So yellow, red, white on this side, yellow, red, white on that side, and they'll match together. Moving on, this guy with the flat 4 pins has this huge extension which has a ruffled cover on it. That's actually the extension for the controller unit. So you plug these two together, and then the extension plugs into the matching colors of the controller unit, and that's that one done. The controller unit has a thermostat in it itself, but you can get a separate thermostat that you can place elsewhere, and that's what this pin is for. So that one for ours will be empty. This guy here, this comes all separate, and there's no instructions for it, but this is a fuse box, and there are 2 fuses that come with it, and this is the lid that just clips on over the top. There are 2 fuses, there's a 20 amp and a 5 amp. The 20 amp is yellow and it has a little 20 written on the top of it. That goes for the thicker cables, and the 5 amp orange goes for the thin cables, and this last slot is empty. There are no cables running through there. There's this little guy that's right on the end. I've got no idea what that does. It might be a sensor, but I really don't know. Off the middle, there's this 2-pin plug. This one's a little bit trickier. It's actually the power for the fuel pump, but there's also an extension cable for that, for the fuel pump, but you need to set up the extension itself. So this is the plug converter that you get these 2 pins to be able to connect to this socket. So the way that you do this is that if you look inside this, there are 2 flat rectangular openings. So you need to slot these 2, one into each, obviously, and you need to take care so that when you slot them in, they match the coloring on this socket. So you'll need to align the little raised divot here onto the plug, onto the socket, and then you can see that the grey one needs to go into this side. So you just squash them in until the end of the yellow becomes flush. The end of the yellow rubber becomes flush with the end of this part. And then otherwise, the other part of this extension will connect into the heater hose, the heater itself. The last part is the power. So this is the power connector. We are given a plug that connects into that, although there is nothing inside there. And we're given these 2 terminals, just these little metal parts that you slide into the larger opening, and they come out. Just the little spade terminals pop out through the smaller opening, and then you end up plugging that into the cable itself. So we need to work out how to do that. For the moment, I wanted to try this outside, and I didn't want to cut into the power from the camper itself. So I've bought some auto cable. It's a 5 amp rating cable that I have just soldered onto these terminals, just so I can try them out, and I'll just end up plugging them in directly here without using this, because once you plug these terminals into this guy, they're really hard to get out because there's a clip in there that holds them in. When they do end up going in, they go back to back, so the flat part and the flat part go against each other, so they'll end up going in that orientation as they are now. So what I've also done is I've bought just this cigarette lighter plug, and there's inside there are 2 plates or terminals, one that connects to this part and one that connects to this part. This is positive and these two on the sides are negative. So if you're soldering those in, that's how they go. So I'm just going to be plugging that and going off this 12 volt to run the heater for the first time. Otherwise, there are a couple other things that I've decided to do. I'm a little bit paranoid about rocks and stuff kicking up from the road and wearing down this fuel pump. I might have forgotten to mention that these are the little attachments that you can get to hold the fuel pump to the body of the camper. So I'm a bit worried that things will hit it mainly, and maybe a little bit of heat coming off on this side. So what I've done is I've bought this sleeving. It's high temperature basalt fibrous, so woven rock, and it's supposed to withstand really high temperatures, and I really like it for being able to just stop that rock coming up and damaging the fuel line itself. So these only come in 1 meter lengths. So I've ended up buying 4 of them for 4 meters total, and I'll just slide the fuel line through there. There are 2 sizes available. There's a 4 and a 6 mil, and I've gone with the 6 mil because the fuel line itself is 4 mil, and I didn't want to have any trouble getting it through. So otherwise, when I'm going to be connecting up the camper inside to the electrics, I wanted to keep things unpluggable so they weren't permanently hardwired, just for if we ever need to do any maintenance, so you don't have to go in there and break any solders that you might have made. So I'm going to be using these spade connectors. So these yellow ones are the ones that take the size cable. They're between 4 and 6 millimeter of a cable. That's the diameter of the hole down the bottom. So I bought these insulated terminals because you can get them with the plastic just around the bottom, but I've gone all the way to the top. So these are the female and these are the males. So I'll just, these are crimp style, so you just end up putting the wire inside and just squeezing down on the outside with some pliers and crimp it in, and it's all done nice and easy. And this is how they look, so they're insulated and there shouldn't be much lower risk of getting a short circuit from there. Otherwise, so these just go single, one cable to one cable in. Well, you can put more, but then like I said, you can't get them out anymore. So where I might need to do put 2 cables in, for example with the power, because we'll need the positive from the camper powering what it used to power at, because I'm going to be cutting that line and also powering the camper. So I'm going to use these screw terminals. So this is just a batch of them, and you just cut one off, plug one side into one side into the other. So we'll see how they go. So I'll connect all this up, and I'll show you how it all works outside the camper.